Good morning. This is Dr. Thomas Mueller. I am a professor in the Department of Communication at Appalachian State University. I've been teaching online for about 10 years now, I'd say. I've been at App State 12 years. We initially had a distance ed program that we actually drove down to Hickory, North Carolina and taught at one of the community college seated. But after several years of that, we transitioned to fully online asynchronous. We have an advertising major in our department. That's what I teach in. And after that, we also had started a successful communication studies online major. So there's been some discussion of how do I build my programs, online, my courses, what do I do? How does it work? And this is just, my opinion at best effort at making that happen. There's been a lot of different things I've thought through recently, and a lot of that is about who really is our customer. In that, I think about the student today. In our distance ed program, by the way, we don't say distance ed as much anymore. We're now talking about more online education because there is a merging among the university between seated and online students, and we're going to be providing more opportunities overall for all types of students to take online. But what has been happening is we think about who the student is, and based on our, the requirements and what's been, put in front of us from the university educational system is that we're supposed to be reaching unserved communities. And for us, a lot of that is the individuals in different parts of the state, many of them major metro markets, some in more rural markets. Many are a bit older, have not originally completed their education. Now they're coming back and they want that degree. They want the learning outcomes to be successful. So there's a lot to think about, and I keep thinking about, well, who's my customer? What is it that I'm doing and what should be important to the customer that, I'm working with. So I'm going to share up my screen here and let's see how I'm doing here. This is a course I'm developing right now for summer. It's actually, for our advertising program, we created a brand new major. We wrote a brand new program of study that starts in fall 2021 for the advertising major. And in that, one of the courses I took responsibility for is going to be called Client Development and Services. It'll be built into our business strategy emphasis in the ad major. And it's really what is the most practical outcomes for students based on, how do you look for business? How do you prospect for a new client? How do you make that big presentation that gains engagement? How do you, get the account? And then after you develop, and present to that client, how do you serve the client? What's service look like? How do you interact with the client? How do you manage events related to client activities? Okay, so I'm teaching it this summer for the first time as a special topics, online asynchronous. And then I'm going to go from there to moving it to the official class designation in the fall for what will be our new online advertising, cohort that's in the system. Okay. A couple of things for me, the way I lay out a program in our As You Learn Moodle format is I always work in week block. And by the way, this isn't complete. You can see that because I'm basically inventing this course right now as we go. Okay, so the big key for me is I always, in the summer, right, it's abbreviated. So really we're doing a deliverable a day for the summer course, but I put the date so they know exactly what's happening on that day and all the work is inside that day block. Now, during a normal semester, and I can show you that up here if I can get to this a little bit differently. Normal semester, I will be working with week blocks. So here's how it looked in a previous semester. We go ahead and I put this a Monday through Friday so they can see what week we're in. Course design for me is making it absolutely easy for the student to isolate the day or week we're working in. Okay, to once we set up the course and move forward, they know they can go to that week block and everything they need to perform well is in that week block because they're busy and their lives are full of details and we always have to make it the easiest and most accessible for them to be successful. Okay. And another thing I've done for a long, long time, at least when I do the semester long courses, I always have my assignments due Tuesday at 9 a.m. Tuesday at 9 a.m. A lot of my students have me for several courses. We work in the week block. Assignments are due Tuesday at 9 a.m. So it's really, there's no deviation in how things work. I think that's good too, because if you have, shifting, move around delivery dates and times, it's easy for the student to get mixed up. So I do try to be very consistent in that. One of the other things I wanted to show you here, because I haven't yet been able to load it in my summer course, is Remind messaging. That's something new. Our university started with the Remind tool. That's a opportunity to reach out and communicate with the student in any way they see best for them. So many students now, the big key to this, they can opt in for their phone number and get this as text, or they can get it as an email, or they can get it as both. They choose. But once we're in the system, I've loaded here, and this was actually, it's a little bit, there's some technology to it, but it starts with an HTML block, okay? So this whole thing here populates with some HTML code. You can get some help with your faculty champion or technology department if you can't figure this out, but basically you just load an HTML block into your As You Learn course. Then you go into your account preferences in Remind once you've started your own Remind account, and then you're able to drop a little bit of HTML language or code into the HTML block, and it populates into this really pretty thing here. So it's easy to see. Your class will see all the scrolling messages here. It says real simple to prompt them join class. They can click here to opt in. If they haven't signed up yet, there's a sign up here. So my point is, if you load this with the HTML block, the Remind messaging is real self-serving to the student to get started. Okay. And then from there, that's where I send all my messages now. We used to use this, course announcements used to be real popular. Everything went out as email. And now I do that all in Remind. Okay. So the student is getting, the whole communication process for me is a lot of interactivity, a lot of, little messages, pre and post assignments, prompting them into the weekly or daily deliverable, and then some comments on the backside. Also, just what's going on. If I see something great in the news, I pop it in there. One of the big things I've learned about the best communication that my students value is that they see relevant practical application. That's what they're asking for over and over again. They want to know, how does this help me get a job? How does this help me be more competitive in my job? What's a deliberate example of how this works in the job I dream to have? Okay, so a lot of what I do is practical. Okay, very practical, sort of street sense. Okay, so back to, let's see, we'll go to this. Here's the course, again, I'm developing now, this, client development services course. When I started to think, how do I build the content for this course? Well, I'm making it up. And again, I just can't, somewhere out there, I'm sure there's something close with the textbook and all the course plans and all that. I build everything from scratch. I really don't have any courses anymore that I haven't invented. Okay. So, back to old Stephen Covey many years ago, a big, business entrepreneur type, he always said, begin with the end in mind and first seek to understand, then to be understood. Okay. First seek to understand. So when I was building out a new course for this, frankly, I like to go talk to people who know what they're doing. Okay. Who are the people in the business that are doing this type of work? So I just got out on LinkedIn, and I just reached out. I started finding some people, and I met Kate, through LinkedIn, and I reached out, and she's very helpful. And she's now a partner in the course. She's actually shared some of her models. She's a top national sales trainer. She's had her own business for, I believe, like 15 years out of the Maryland area. And, we've been communicating, and she's helping me with some really great teaching blocks. Again, here's a professional in the business teaching other major corporations and individuals how to go out and prospect business and get sales. That's what we're trying to help our students do here. Okay, so I went to her. And another partner in this is Terrence Milstead. Now, Terrence used to be a faculty member at App State, was a friend of mine when he was here. I believe in geography. He went on to urban planning in Philadelphia, and now he's a vice president at Ogilvy, one of the biggest ad agencies in the country, dealing with a multi-million dollar piece of federal business. He represents his region for FEMA. Okay, so Terrence is telling me, how does he get the meetings? How does he make those connections? And then he was telling me about this whole process he's worked with and at Ogilvy on thought leadership. And I try to help my students understand, how do you become a thought leader, right? On social media, we might call that an influencer. But it's so great when you can bring in these corporate partners and then go ahead and say to a student, look, here's who we're working with. Here's who's helping us design this, and it's real. Okay, it's real. And so that is how I'm designing the course. A lot of feedback and input from Terrence and Kate. Okay, so again, I'm setting this up, messaging, again, communication with the Remind system. I'd highly recommend that at university for communication. It's pretty fast to use. I only do it personally through my desktop or laptop. Students maybe do it all on their personal devices, their phones, but I can work it on a desktop. It's almost like sending a text message. That's the format of it. And it goes out, you can put attachments to it, you put photos with it, links, it'll embed links. So that's the communication model. And then the other big thing is Kaltura. You'll see here the Kaltura Media Gallery. That is really the new video capture tool for academic use at our university. Okay, so a lot of Kaltura, and it really isn't lecturing. It's more of just, when I communicate with students, I picture myself sitting in a coffee shop, having a conversation. Because here's what I've learned. It's a really big effort for a student to take time and watch a big lecture and take notes and manage it. Frankly, that's where I see a lot of my disconnect and fall off. If I put too much information out on video and then try to hold them accountable and responsible for that learning component. So we know this in our current society, social media adapted, our attention spans are way, way down. And if you expect someone to engage with your media, your Kaltura course, lecture, or whatever, it has to be really, really good. You really have to be as good as a stand-up comedian. You've got to be putting on a show. You've got to be on your game. And if it's not really that good, it's not going to play out well with the students. Okay. So think about that. I know Kaltura has a brand new embedded quiz function. You can actually put multiple choice or true, false, or open-ended text block questions in. You can embed those right in the videos you make. I'm going to experiment with that this coming class this summer, but I don't want to really push toward forced compliance. I don't want to do it sort of as a leverage trick. So to think about, how do you do it really well? How do you keep that sizzle in your videos? How do you make it exciting? Okay. And then one other point is, I go through and build this again. It'll be by the day because it's summer, very short. But I've also tried to, I've never really done much of this before, but added a few graphics, images in some of the day blocks, just to show the student, again, promoting and selling a little bit what we're talking about. Okay. And I thought it was really great because in some of these resources, I've actually found a lot more. Again, we're talking about making presentations to clients, but again, I'm self-educating, teaching myself how to make better presentations as I teach students to make better presentations. Okay. One other point I'd make as far as my resources is, I believe personally, we're really underutilizing our university library. It's there. There's a lot of individuals ready to help. Frankly, the university spends a tremendous amount of money on resources and subscriptions. It's all in behind that firewall, in behind that paywall the university offers through that library. And it's underutilized. My opinion, it's underutilized. So I always try to go into the university library and see what's available. So right here, here's a tremendous access database for finding individuals and companies and company information and digital and media spending, and also the individuals who are decision makers in these companies. And and I'm trying to still understand how to do this, but it has an assessment personality profile of many of these top decision makers. So you can understand, how do you go at this person, right? Is this an assertive, aggressive, data cooking type? Or is this sort of a big picture creative type? That makes a difference on how you reach out when you make a presentation or a proposal. So again, offered through our library, integrate those sources. And then, down here, there's a great little ebook I found, which talks about the effective side of good presentations. Again, right, in our minds, when we think about cognitive effective, right, so much now, and we think of that dreadful PowerPoint, right, the dreadful thing. And they're painful. And I know we've all sat through hundreds of really poor PowerPoint-driven presentations, but think about this, so much of that is the cognitive side. Someone's putting up the facts and there's bar charts, but there's the effective side, the creative side, the entertaining side. And I found a real neat piece I'm going to teach about through this ebook that I found in the library. And I'm going to teach through this presentation Zen book. And again, you find these where the students can go right into the library, and it's open access ebook. You just click on it and bring in the access. It's real good. We're promoting the library, and we're using good teaching resources that are rather contemporary and not just textbook based. Okay, so those library type resources. And matter of fact, there's actually a really good subsection. By the way, up here is what I did. I just ran making presentations. This was my search. And then this was the book, Presentation Zen, 2019, not too old. And I've been in that book, and it's a short little read. It's not terribly long, which is great, because, students, you just can't drop a whole bunch of pages on them. It's just not going to work, in my opinion. But this talks about how to get to that new and better presentation. Here's the graphic I used. And then down here, toward the end, there's a great piece by Seth Godin, and I believe it's Godin or Godin, but he really unpacks the perfect best presentation, and this is going to become the outline for the final project, right? And in the end, the other piece I would give you in all of this is to, when you're coming to the culmination of the course of what do you get out of it, what do students get out of it, I always think about the value to them in practical application. So again, this final project is they research a company they really want to work for. And they find that individual they believe is the best connection. Okay. And then they actually decide, and again, we do set up earlier in the course where we really define who we are with our best skills going forward. And then how do you best write communication, like connect with someone on LinkedIn, or how do you send them that first message, to really get toward client-facing communication, where it's about what you're going to deliver to the client, to that organization. Okay. And we're going to do that. I'm going to have students reach out, and they're going to reach out to these individuals and say, would you be my mentor in this class project? Would you take a look at my final product? Because the idea is going to be, they're going to make a presentation demonstrating how their number one key skill set will make a specific contribution to that organization, and through an example. Okay, what product or service might you have a better creative idea for? How will you apply your graphic skills to developing, let's say, die cut packaging that's going to go out up with the latest products? So the student gets a chance to try to make that connection, and in a practical sense learns how to promote themselves. And when I tell them practically, this is about the job hunt too. It's not just about, you want it in career-wise to be an agency setting where you're going to try to get new business. That's always what happens. And I think I have a real responsibility to teach students that they have to keep thinking about driving in new business, because that becomes everybody's job at most every agency. So we'll do that. And then hopefully in this class, not required, if they can't get the connect, that's okay. But if they do get the connect, they get the chance to really get in front of a decision maker at the company they really dream of working at. And so that's really how I conclude or mention often and then conclude in my courses, I'm here to give you value. And I respect you for being in my program. I know it's controversial, but in this new stage of online education and all the options, they are a customer. They made a choice to be in my program, my class, right? They made a choice, and I need to deliver value. And I tell them, I know you spent money on this. I know you paid tuition. I know many of you, struggle at times financially, but you still came through and made this. I take that seriously. And if you're going to spend money in our program at Appalachian State University, which I believe is a great online program in a top state university, then it's my job to give you value. Okay. And the last thing is then, basically, how do you give the feedback, whatever? I grade all the time. I never miss. So I think that the best opportunity to demonstrate to your students what you want the course to be is demonstrate you'll work just as hard or harder than they will. I believe personally, if you don't have the work ethic, why would they have the work ethic? Because I can be rigorous and I can push students to be better, and I'm known for that. So if I'm expecting a lot, I need to do my part, and that's grading every time. So in the summer, I will turn those grades every day. They'll always get done. I don't miss. During the school year, I grade about 80, 90 a week. I never miss. Okay, they come in on a Tuesday, by Thursday, Friday at the latest, they're back with remarks and grades. They know where they're at. They've got that feedback. They've got the grade, and they're headed into the next assignment. But I've got to deliver. So how does it work? I think there's a lot of different new tools, a lot of new technologies, not a lot of new add-ons into what we call online education. That's all great. But in the end, it's demonstrating that work ethic and the constant turn of grade and feedback and practical application and respecting students for investing in the program. Okay, so that's it today. Appreciate it. And I hope this helps you with some of your online development going into the future. Bye-bye now.